Hey everyone, it's Ethan Ormis back again for another video today, and welcome back to the channel, guys. We're here again for yet another video. And today we're going to be ranking and reviewing NAV's newest album, Demons Protected by Angels. One of my favorite NAV albums, for sure. And yeah, I think this is an amazing album, so let's get into it. As you guys know, I'm a very big NAV fan. I've been a NAV fan for, I think what is 10 years? It's 10 years. Is a decade 10 years, right? Yeah, half a decade now. 2017, I think, was the first time I heard of NAV. Is a decade 10 years? I'm totally blanking on if that's a true fact or not. Nonetheless, let's get into the album. So, let's talk about it. We'll go through song through song, of course. Starting off with Count on Me, I think this is a fantastic start to this album with a slower paced production that's absolutely beautiful. NAV truly never misses on any intro from any album, and that's no different here. Top 5 song for me from this album as well. This is a very deep and personal song where Nav really talks about some hard topics that he's going through, such as being so hated on and feeling like he's got no one left to trust but himself. And honestly, it's kind of sad. Like, it really is sad, but... moving on to track number 2, Baby. I really enjoy this song and it's really great. My favorite part of this song is the way Nav changes his voice when the set of drums hit super fast. I think it's like a set of 6 drums or something. And I really like the chorus as well. Moving on to one of the biggest bangers of the album, which is Deadshot, probably the most hype song from this album, and for good reason. An absolute slapper where Nav and Uzi both play their parts. I think Nav gets the edge, but this is one of the best trap anthems from 2022, in my opinion. I love the chorus from Uzi on this song as well. I love the production, and I love the back and forth between the two because Nav and Uzi make such great songs together. I definitely prefer them making hyper songs rather than slower paced songs like ASAP Ferg and Nav Uzi Metro Part 2. But I love ASAP Ferg, one of my favorite of their collabs. But yeah, I think the fast paced hype Nav and Uzi is just top fucking tier, and it's so damn good. Again, they bounce so well off of each other. Moving on to the lead single of the album, which is Never Sleep. This is probably the most popular song on the album, I'd imagine. And, I can understand why. This is a pretty great song. I love the alarm throughout the production. I think that's pretty good. I really like the production. I feel like it's pretty unique for most of Nav's discography. I really like the back and forth between all the artists because some verses are split between Travis and Nav. Some verses are split between Nav and Baby, as well as the chorus is kind of back and forth between Travis and Nav. And Travis and Nav always make bangers. Nav and Lil Baby have been doing pretty well together, I feel like, as well. So some really good songs that they've made. But another really great song, and it's definitely one of my favorites. It's in my top 10 from the album, but it's definitely not my number 1 like most people's probably. But moving on to number 5, we have Last of the Mohicans. I love this song. Love how Nav is opening up about the people he's missing, such as Lil Keed. Rest in peace to Lil Keed. And of course, Gunna and Young Thug, who are in jail. The production on the song is fantastic, and it's a W transition into One Time. Although I am not a fan of One Time is probably in my opinion, the most overrated song on this album. Nav is decent on it. Don Toliver really does carry this song, though, and I absolutely, with a passion, do not like Future's verse. I don't think it's good at all. Future in an R&B bag, it's just not for me. There's a couple R&B tracks on this album, which I'm going to talk about here shortly, but yeah, no, this song's just not for me. I don't like it at all. Wheezy produced this. I feel like Wheezy has much better production on the faster pace tempo, which is also on this album, which you can find. So yeah, not a fan of One Time. Moving on to Demons in My Cup. I think it's a great song. I love the production and the chorus a lot. One of the more hype songs on the album. I love the way that Nav kind of changes his voice throughout the song as well. Really, really great song that I'm a big fan of, in my top 10. Moving on to Playa. Gunna kind of carries this song, I'm not going to lie. I love his flow on the chorus. His verse is decent, Nav's verse is decent, but the chorus, like the flow from Gunna on the chorus, is just really good, and it's very catchy. Although I feel like this song can get annoying pretty quickly. Nonetheless, moving on to Weirdo. This is a pretty good song. I love the Wheezy production. It's super reminiscent of the Emergency Tsunami production from Wheezy, which is my favorite NAV album. So I feel like you could pluck this song out of DPBA and then just put it onto ET. I feel like, it wouldn't really change anything. I feel like it would be much better suited on ET because of the production style, but still a great song in my opinion. Moving on to probably my least favorite track on this album. This is definitely the closest to a skip that I have, which we'll talk about shortly as well. It's My Dog. I thoroughly don't care for the song. The song has just gotten worse and worse the more I listen to it. Not a fan of the production nor the Dirk feature. Don't like the way Dirk comes in with that offbeat flow. I'm just not a fan of it. But moving on to Don't Compare, I really like this song. This is a pretty slow and sad song where Nav opens up about a girl. The production on this song is beautiful, and this song has actually moved up quite a lot for me. It's in my top 10 now, where it was upon first listen, it was my third least favorite song on the album, and it's now in my top 10, and I wouldn't be surprised if it continues to go up the list. But moving on to Interstellar, kind of an opposite story for this. Interstellar was like a top 5 song for me after first listen. Now it's not even in my top 10. It's definitely been diminished. I do still like the song. I think it's a good song, and it reminds me a lot of the Yeet Deluxe from 2 Alive that came out earlier this year, where Yeet and Nav have 2 Uzi features on their album. One is fucking incredible, 3G and Deadshot. Those 2 songs are fucking incredible. Some of the best trap anthems of the year, in my opinion. And then you have Big Tonka and Interstellar that are just like a league under those other 2 songs. Like, they're not even comparable in my opinion. I just don't think they're close at all. I think 3G and Deadshot are just so much better. And yeah, Interstellar I just don't think compares to Deadshot on this album at all. I think it's still a good song, like I said. I love the slight Rage production on it. I never really expected to hear Nav on a Rage beat, but I'm kind of glad I did. Now moving on to my favorite song of the album, we have Loaded. Like I said, my favorite song. It's the one I've been listening to the most. I truly love everything about this song. I love the production on the song. It's kind of a slower paced production. I love the chorus. I love how at the end of the song, Nav slows the production down a lot. Kind of like makes it a little more spacey, so it's kind of like distorted in a way. Nav has done that for a ton of his songs before, and it's just so good. I'm a big fan of it. Yeah, I think everything is absolutely perfect with this song. I love the way that Nav says loaded, exploded, show it, and know it throughout the chorus. I think it sounds so good. The way that he kind of changes his vocal inflections. Everything is just perfect about this song, in my opinion. This is like I said, one of the best songs on the album, in my opinion. Moving on to Lost Me, I absolutely love Nav's verse and the outro to the song, but that's it. I'm not a big fan of Realist K's vocals in this. Again, another R&B track that just doesn't do it for me. I'm not a huge R&B guy. Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of this song. It's been kind of a skip for me. And same thing with the next song, Reset. I'm just not a fan of the Bryson Tiller feature at all. I just don't think it's good, in my opinion. Really don't care for this song. I've never really cared for this song. I think Nav truly outclasses both Realist K and Bryson Tiller on these 2 songs, but yeah, just not a fan of either of those songs. The R&B songs just aren't for me. Nonetheless, moving on to Mismatch, and this is very similar to Weirdo, where you could pluck it out of this track list and put it onto Emergency Tsunami, and it wouldn't really change anything because Mismatch is an absolute fucking banger. This is number 3 on the album for me. For me, one of my favorite songs from the album. The production is absolutely incredible. I love the energy between Nav and who is it? Babyface Ray. They match each other very well, and again, this, like, the Wheezy production from this is so damn good. Again, I think it just should be on Emergency Tsunami. It's fantastic. The production would fit perfectly with the Emergency Tsunami production, but yeah, with that being said, we'll continue on to Wrong Decisions. In my opinion, the better of the 2 singles that came out before the album was fully released. This song is an absolutely beautiful masterpiece from Nav. This production is flawless, and the drum pattern on this song is so good and so catchy. I love the added sounds in the production at the end of the song, too. I love how Nav really talks about making some wrong decisions off of temporary emotions. He mentions that a couple times on this album, which is really interesting. And again, this song is kind of sad, to be honest. Like, Nav just kind of opening up about his problems, and it's a little heartbreaking, really. And again, the production, the slower paced production, is so good. But with that being said, we'll move on to Destiny. A good song, but not one I'm revisiting very often. That's literally all I wrote for this song. It's just been a skip for me lately. But again, I'll talk more about that shortly. Moving on to the outro and the final track of this album, Ball and Peace. This is another heartbreaking story from Nav, talking about how he misses his friend that was killed earlier this year. And Nav really shows how much he cares about him in this song. The song is beautiful and a great tribute to his friend. I love the progression in the production throughout the chorus, and I love the quiet vocals in the verses, letting the production shine. This song is fantastic, and I don't really think Nav misses on outros either, but I think his intros are better than his outros. But with that being said, overall, I think this album is amazing, and unfortunately, some songs have turned into skips for me. Well, for the first couple of weeks, there were no skips. Genuinely, the first couple of listens, like, I listened to this album 6 times the first day it came out, and there wasn't a single skip on it for me. I truly, really enjoyed every song. I've since grown to find a couple songs that I would skip. Those songs are One Time, I just don't like the R&B track. My Dog, kind of an R&B track, not a fan. Lost Me, an R&B track, not a fan. Reset, an R&B track, not a fan. And Destiny, just kind of grown to get away from it now. I think Baby is starting to get close to a skip, but overall, I mean, I'm still listening to it for the most part. Really, there's only like 11 songs I'm revisiting, which, to be fair, is over 50% of the album. But again, I don't really think there's a bad song on this album. If I wanted to and wanted to sit through this album and listen to it from start to finish, I absolutely could. There isn't a song where I'm like, oh my god, turn this shit off. This is absolutely garbage. But with that being said, overall, I just think this is a fantastic project. I never have understood the hate that Nav receives, and he even wonders that on some of the songs on this album. He talks about it in the intro, how he feels kind of vulnerable about how so many people are hating on him and clowning him for his music. I know he gets a lot of hate for making corny lines, but you could do that, or you could judge that on just about any artist, especially any rapper out there. And Nav opens up and talks about actual subject matter as well. I think it's so unfair, the hate that Nav gets. I think it's incredibly undeserved. That's just my opinion, but what do I know? Anyways, I think Nav is low-key an underrated artist at this point. I think he's so versatile. I love the different vocal inflections that he has on this album through his voice, and he has so much more. He has so much to bring to the table for you. I think, again, the versatility in his voice is really, really high. And no matter what kind of genre or subgenre of hip-hop that Nav goes in, I think he can succeed in that lane. I don't think Nav should be in an R&B track list, like, ever. I'm not a fan of the R&B tracks on this song. If those R&B tracks weren't on this song, I think this song, or this album, would low-key be flawless. So, yeah, that's just my opinion, though. I think Nav can also be put on just about any beat and find success. I don't really think there's a song on this album where Nav's like getting outshined at all. So apart from One Time, I think that's the only one where Nav gets outshined, and it's by Don Toliver, because just a beautiful vocal performance from Don Toliver. But apart from that, Nav kind of carries every song. So it carries some songs, or it evenly matches up on the other songs. But I love this album, and I love Nav. I'm intrigued to see how this album continues to age, because, like I said, it's starting to get worse for me as time goes on. After the first weekend of listening to it, I gave it a ranking of 96 out of 100. It's since moved down to a 92 out of 100, so I still think it's amazing. It probably will eventually get lower, but it's still, again, one of my favorite Nav albums. And as of right now, my top 10 songs on the album are 10 to 1, Don't Compare, Ball and Peace, Demons in My Cup, Never Sleep, Last of the Mohicans, Count on Me, Wrong Decisions, Mismatch, Deadshot, and Loaded. So there you go, guys. That's 15 minutes straight of me talking about Nav. So sorry about that. I didn't expect this video to be so long. I really tried to go through this quickly. Apologies, but yeah, thank you guys all so much for watching. Let me know your thoughts on this album. In my opinion, it's one of the best albums of the year. Might be biased because I've always been a NAV fan, but I just don't see the hate on this album. It's just not deserved. Nonetheless, thank you guys all so much for watching. Hopefully you did enjoy, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.